Hi, everybody. It's Stacy Sobel with Salon Today Conversations, and today we have a good one for you where we're with Michael Yost from Strategies. It's Rachel Beechboard, right?
Yeah.
And that's from, and you are from Libelle Beach Salon in Lebanon, Tennessee. And Debbi Burns, the owner of Curl Boutique in Westbrook, Maine. Did I get all this right?
Yes.
Yes.
Got it.
And today we're talking about staff retention, which is a topic that is at the heart and core of every salon owner right now as we battle to come back from the pandemic and people are struggling to hold on to their team members through the Great Resignation and trying to just get back to doing business and getting our numbers back up. So Michael, you kind of brought this assembly to our attention and said, let's do one on staff retention. It's a good topic for now. And I'm going to let you kind of start off some questions with these ladies and I'll jump in.
All right. Awesome. Sounds good. Thank you, Stacy. Appreciate it. Again, appreciate you having us. And again, this is, like Stacy just said, such a huge and important topic, especially right now. Always is important, but more now than ever, the magnifying glass is really put onto it. And so, let's just kind of dive right in, right? So the idea of staff retention. So hopefully what we can share is just some things, and we got, like I said, I have two great business owners that really excel in this area. So hopefully we can tap some of their resources. Deb, I'm going to start with you, but it's going to be the same question because I'd love both of you to give your perspectives on this. So let's kind of dive right into it. And, I think a great place to start is to say, if staff retention were a recipe, because we know with a recipe, man, we want to create a great outcome with any recipe we put together, but there's always a list of ingredients that go into it. But there always seems to be one key ingredient to make that recipe really stand out. If staff retention were a recipe, we know there's multiple ingredients, but if you could identify one key ingredient for you, Debbi, what ingredient would that be? What do you think is key to staff retention?
I think for me, it has been communication. It sounds like it's very simple, but actually when a lot of things that I think that I know about my staff, I actually don't. So we are very intentional about putting out, whether it be surveys or being really committed to doing the one-on-ones or just being able to check in with people. It seems very important because it's really easy to have little things turn into bigger things and then get into resentments and bad culture. So communication for me.
Awesome. Awesome. Rachel, what's your key ingredient if you had to choose one?
If I had to choose one, I would say lead with an open heart and empathy. Really having better conversations, deeper conversations with your employees. Really backing what Debbi said, those little things can turn into really big things. And the sooner that you take that head on and have that tough conversation, the better. So that way you can have that better communication, but just really leading team with empathy and open heart. Again, like I said, in our last interview, I don't think anybody comes to work to be a bad employee or to create a bad culture or anything like that. It's just those little things that turn into big things, and leading with that empathetic, open heart, you can really have those conversations.
Cool.
As leaders in your businesses, do you think that you're doing more time now listening than you used to after the pandemic? Is it more important to listen to people as well as talk to them?
For sure. You have two ears, one mouth for a reason. and not just listening to give an answer, but really to just see their perspective.
Yeah. I think that's been one. For me, I don't feel like it's more after the pandemic. I think it's always been the same amount, but I feel like as I've grown in my business, which isn't even quite 5 years old in this location, that every year that goes along, I realize just how little I do listen. In fact, we've implemented a talking stick when we're all together. And because I come from a family that like the way that we communicate is everyone just talk, whoever can talk the loudest gets heard. And so I'm really comfortable with that. And that is terrifying for some employees that don't come in with that background. So I've really had to, and it's a work in progress, like keep my mouth shut and listen. And I'm always amazed when employees feel, or anyone in particular, but right now we're talking about employees, when you shut up and listen and just hear what they have to say and give them the space to say it.
Love it. I love I love that, that question too, Stacey. So, what we're getting out of this, already is some cool things. It's the idea of how we communicate, can be really critical to retaining team, being that, like I said, from the right heart, and again, being receptive. And I love that follow up with the listening piece. Debbi, I'm going to ask you this question then, because I want to build off of that, because what are some of the things that, if we talk about communication as being so important to staff, what are some things that people listening in or viewing this, what would you recommend that they might be able to do? Do you have any systems that you put in place? Anything that you specifically do on a regular basis that makes sure communication continues to take part in your company?
So I would say the one-on-ones that we have, and trust me, I am in no way like perfect on these, because stuff does come up and then things can get rescheduled. But as I go along, again, I'm trying to be incredibly intentional about, you set the time for a one-on-one. Staff is actually really disappointed. In my mind, I'm like, oh, well, this came up, so we'll just move it to next week. They need that consistency. And in my one-on-one, a lot of times, I always used to just always open it up with, how can I help you? Like, what's going on? Tell me what's going on. And if there's not a lot with them, the next is, how can I help you for this month? What are some things that you want to, do this month? How can I help you? So those kind of questions, putting it into their laps and just being able to listen to what they have to say. And then sometimes people aren't comfortable answering you in the moment. So we're doing a lot with doing surveys too, or giving out. So we Slack them, and then they have the chance. There are one in particular that I'm thinking of that loves to be able to really collect her thoughts and write it down. And so that is helpful too, to maybe not give it in the moment, but give them space to think about it, write it down, and then send it back. And it's also less, I think it's a little easier that way, because you're not one-on-one with the person saying it to them if you're uncomfortable with that.
I love it. Love it. Rachel, how about you? Is there something like key communication wise? Because again, you wove that into your initial answer as well, as long as, again, trying to show the empathy, the heart, the transparency of where you're coming from as a leader. But is there something that you find key that is a great foundation that, again, someone listening could say, hey, listen, I can apply that in my own company right now. What could I do that she's having success with?
Really and truly, like the first thing that comes to my mind is obviously the one-on-ones, but not being afraid to talk in between as well, especially when pressure arises. So something in our company is, when pressure arises, we've got to push through the line of perturbation. And whether that is coming together as a team or talking individual, or just having that tough conversation for myself of having to coach or mentor a team member in that moment, is just really paying attention to when that pressure does get high and not being afraid to go in and talk about it. So for me, I know when the pressure is ticking up, it's time to have some conversations. And it's not necessarily bad or good, or they may all be feeling that, like we had a conversation a couple of weeks ago, and I was just like, all right, time out, guys, let's talk this through. How are you guys feeling? What's going on? And just giving that each individual person that time to talk, whether that's in a group setting or individual setting.
Now, you both mentioned your one-on-ones. How frequently do you do them, each of you? And then what kind of, usually how long do they take? Do you commit 15 minutes, half an hour? How long do you schedule for those?
I'll go ahead and go. We usually do once a month. It's always, we try to do the first week of every month. It's scheduled, it's in the schedule. And then we do 15 minutes about, and if there needs to be more conversation, we can put it in the parking lot, as we say, or put a pin in it and then have it for a little bit later. But typically 15 minutes to just check it in with them it seems to work.
Yeah, we usually do one-on-one check-ins, and they're about 15 minutes for us as well. We also do quarterly reviews, and we schedule those. I like to have plenty of time for them. I like to take them out of the salon, take them to lunch or to, an early dinner or something like that, or brunch. And I usually schedule that for at least an hour and a half. And if they have something that they really want to talk about, I'll schedule 2 hours. So monthly one-on-ones about 15 minutes, but quarterlies, we do about 1.5 to 2 hours. I just want to give them that space, and I don't want them to ever feel rushed. So
I love it. I love it. I think, I love that you guys started out with the idea that I think a lot of people listening might think, oh, staff retention. They think of other areas and they don't think of communication as maybe such a key ingredient for retaining and growing your team. And I think the reason for that, and to kind of advance the conversation along a little bit, I think the reason for that, why communication is such an important part to both of you, is because when people have a chance to communicate, you have a chance to make them feel empowered. And a part of something, and even take on, by empowerment could be maybe out of that conversation comes on other tasks or responsibilities or more clarity in certain areas. So again, the more we understand our roles, I think we find this a lot at strategies in our teachings as we work with people, the more we find that you can empower your team members to understand their role, maybe even additional responsibilities, because again, we want to do things that help grow. That's kind of an inherent need that we all have as humans, is to be part of something greater than ourselves in a way. And so when we look at this, I think empowerment to me keeps coming up. So I'm going to kind of shift gears, and then Debbie, I'm going to hit, start with you again with this is, if empowerment is such a key piece in this, the next kind of step in this, what does it look like to empower a team member then in your company? So you got those one-on-ones going, you're having conversations, but now, how do you really make a team member feel empowered, which draws them in and feels more aligned with your business, more, more entrenched in your company? What does that look like for you?
So for us, it's, I really think it takes some time to get to know the person, like really who they are as an individual. I love what Rachel was saying about leading with an open heart, because it really becomes seeing them as humans and as individual souls, and like what is important to them. I have some team members that what's important to them is very much having boundaries, and as far as like they want clear work times and then home times. They're not interested in taking on a lot of other things. In fact, the relentless communication sometimes can feel intrusive to them. They don't like always, they just want to go to work and do their job and leave. Then I have other ones that are like, no, they want things to be in charge of, and they want to grow that way. So I really think it comes down to finding out more about them. And we do it through a lot of personality testing, and just, again, going back to that word communication, just relentless communication, and being curious about who they are.
Right. I love that. Rachel, I'm going to ask you, but man, I don't want to miss something you brought up, because I think a lot of people get in that mindset, Debbie, and I just want to reemphasize what you just said so no one misses it. I love that you brought up the fact that empowerment for people looks different for everyone.
Completely.
And like I said, some just want to come, hey, listen, I just want to come in. I want to do my job. I want to do it at a high level. I want to do it well, but I'm not interested in more than that. And that doesn't make them bad.
No,
it's just
it doesn't.
Understanding your people, because others, as you just illustrated, are like, listen, I want to take on more. But if you don't communicate and you don't allow them times to feel empowered in different ways, because empowerment can just be, as you said, setting up right boundaries can be empowerment for a lot of people. I love that, Debbie. Rachel, how about you with empowerment?
So empowerment in our company really looks like showing them how to lead themselves with a lot of personal development that we do. We in our company truly believe like the world conditions us to think, act, do, and be a certain way. And for me, I would like to empower my girls to, or my team, to really believe in themselves And I feel like sometimes the world conditions us to not believe in ourselves. So when something arises, really getting their opinion and listening to their opinion. What do you think? How can we do better? How can we fix this? Right now we're doing a customer care, guest care 101, and it's probably going to take us all year to do it, but we're literally taking bite-sized things in our company, whether that's communication, consultations, arrival for a guest, anything. And we're breaking it down, and I'm truly getting their opinion on it. So they feel empowered that this is their company as well. Because that's super, super important. So we do a lot of that, getting their feedback, getting their opinion. So really what Debbi said, it goes back to that communication, what they want to see out of the company, and truly empowering them to be who God called them to be and being that powerful person that we were set out to be.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Stacey, I didn't know if you had something. I don't want to jump over anything that you wanted to.
No, just wanted to comment that I think what you guys are doing is great. And the more, we always hear from really great saloners, the more that you weave people into helping create the culture of your salon, the more invested in it they are. So
right.
That's what
and I want to pick up. Yeah, I want to pick up what you also said, Rachel, because I think, again, it's an important piece that I don't want anyone to miss, just like with Debbi is, what you talked about there was, I love how we want to get our teams engaged and involved and empowered, like you were describing, Rachel. But at the same time, that doesn't also have to go against the values and the vision that you have for a business as a business leader either. And so I don't want anyone out there to listen and go, well, if one person, what if one person wants to do X and it's way against where I want to go as the leader of this company? It's not about that. It's about saying, hey, listen, what are we doing? Here's where we're going, but how can we do that and still keep on the right path? Have you ever had, just off the cuff question really on this one is, Rachel in particular, have you ever had what happens when someone kind of wants to deviate? Maybe they've got all the best intentions, but maybe it's not always in alignment with what your direction of thinking. Just give me an example of that, or how you might kind of course correct or address that.
Yeah, I've definitely had it come up, and it sucks, just to not say it so lightly, but it's really, again, going back to the open heart and empathy. I don't think anybody has any ill intentions. They just have their own ideas. So for us, we take it back to the core values, mission, and vision of the company. And sometimes those things don't line up. I believe that everybody is set in our path for a reason. And maybe they were a great team member for a couple of years, but then you both got different visions, and that's okay. But for me and my company, we have to take it back to the mission, vision, and core values. We have a set of standards that we operate by, that we all agree to. So knowing that sometimes that's going to happen, and not everybody's going to stay in alignment with your company and your vision and your mission, and that's okay. Talking it out and not getting upset, not getting defensive is really, really hard. But when you take it back to those mission and vision and core values, it's kind of black or white for me.
Love it. Love it. Debbi, I had another question for you, but I don't know if there's something that's, you just want to share off of what we were just talking about before we change direction. If there's something in there that you're like, man, because I can see, I can sense your passion. So I don't know if there's something more you want to add. I don't want to shut it down.
No, and it's funny enough, because as we're talking about retention during this last week, I have a situation with one of our employees is going to go rent a suite. And so I was like, if this organically comes up, I'll bring it up. This is exactly what happened. So I had to have the conversation, because we have the same thing as Rachel. We have our mission statement, and we have our core values, and one of them is authenticity. And I could tell for a few months that stuff was starting to happen, and it's a terrible, sucky conversation, like she said, to have happen. And this is someone that has been with me a while and is a top producer, and so uncomfortable. But I don't know if anyone's familiar with the book, The Energy Bus, but we had all read that as staff. And basically the idea is when I hire someone on, I say, this bus, if you want to get onto it, we're going to Disney. So it's nothing wrong if you want to go to SeaWorld, but this bus is going to Disney. And so when I had the conversation with her, I literally opened up with saying, look, I feel like this bus is going to Disney and I'm staring at Shamu right now. And all the teammates are like, hey, I thought we were going to Disney, but that looks an awful lot like Shamu. And I'm like, no, we're still going to Disney. So it was just like, and then I just put it back to her, what's going on with you? And out of that difficult conversations, we're navigating how it's going, keeping that open heart, like all the stuff. This is when it happens. No one's going to stay with you or they might not stay with you forever. People grow and they might have a different vision, and that's okay. And so that's what we're walking through right now.
I love that. I'm glad that you shared that. Again, I think that's so valuable for those listening, that, again, you stay true to your vision, your mission, where you want to go. And again, people come and go, in and out of that. And it's not always about, it doesn't make you bad because someone, you're not a poor leader because someone has left your company for other things. That's just their evolution and their journey and their growth. So that's kind of interesting.
But I'll tell you that it does make you feel that. And I think when that does happen, there is going to be that self-reflection. And this is going to be like, can I do better for next time? What could have I done? Those kind of things. I think that's normal when someone leaves, that you do feel that way.
Yeah, no, and I'm again, I love that you said that. This is a great conversation. Because again, what can we learn? We always need to grow as leaders, and we always need to look at our own selves. And again, a little bit of put that mirror up in front of us, right? I got one, more question that I want to hit, in our time together, because I'm sure a lot of people joined into this and are listening to this because they're thinking to themselves, oh, I'm going to learn about staff retention. They're going to tell me about what they do for pay and benefits and this and that and the other. And that's going to be the secret ingredient to talking about keeping people. And again, so far in our first, I don't know how many minutes we've been doing this, but let's say roughly our first 20 minutes, it hasn't even entered the realm of the conversation yet as far as importance on the scale of things. But I do want to talk about that and just get your honest opinion. When it comes to staff retention, where would you, if you had to list out like top 5, and you don't have to give me like every 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but if you had to say like a ranking, where would you rank like the idea of when it comes to staff and retaining staff, where does things like financial benefits such as pay or benefits or bonuses or any of that, where would you say that ranks in the area of staff retention? Because I mean, it's a part of our lives. It's a part of our job. So, I mean, it's on the list somewhere, but what's your thought on where that falls? Debbi?
Okay. So I think obviously we want to be, as leaders, we want to compensate as much as we can. We want our people to have great lives and do the things they want to do. So that is important. But for me, I think the top one is culture. Like, I'm with the people that I work with more than I am with my own family. So if I'm not going to go in and there's not going to be a good environment, work environment and culture, then what's the point? It's not worth the money.
Right. Rachel.
I would have to agree with Debbi. It truly drives back to culture. You can go in and make great money, but be in a very toxic situation and very toxic culture, and you won't thrive there. But, you can always work together as a team. I can help you as a leader grow into the income and the benefits that we want by being transparent. And again, going back to communication. So for me, I would say the top ranking thing is culture and definitely leadership. I think people want to see a strong leadership.
Love it.
You both are spot on, because we've seen a couple of surveys over the years, and in the last couple of years, pays like 3 or 4 down. It's culture, it's flexibility now, and it's leadership.
Yeah. I love it. I love that. And, I wanted to bring it up because I think the mistake that a lot of people make when they think about staff retention is they automatically go to that. They automatically go to, oh, they must want more money, or I got to find a way to give them more of something. We'll just say more something, right? Whether that's a benefit or whatever. And the fact of the matter is, and again, Stacy just backing that up as well, with, they obviously, Salon Today has a lot of horsepower to gather a lot of information from a lot of different outlets. And if they're also saying, listen, this is like, this is on the list, but it's ranking like 4th or 5th. And then we got 4 things even in front of that. Focus on that. And I hope that, like I said, the conversation today is kind of allowed, because, and I guess I'll just kind of wrap that up and just kind of with this direction. It's like, for anyone listening, think about this. Here's how you determine for yourself that money isn't always the main important factor. Have you ever worked at the job that no matter how much they were willing to pay you, or you got a raise, that you still like, I still don't enjoy this job? Again, money doesn't bring the satisfaction. Money doesn't make you want to stay. Money is certainly a part of all of our lives. It's the reward for our hard work. But if you don't like your work, and you don't like, especially now, people are gonna find other outlets. And going back to the culture, the leadership, the communication, all those cool things, I think, are so important. So so cool, so important. So Stacy, just want to kind of throw it back to you, because you've had some great, insights and questions as well. Any other questions for our great group?
I'd just like to ask both of you, we're seeing a lot of need from our readers, who are all mostly salon owners and managers, for some help with mental wellness for their teams. And people have thrown out some different ideas. Have either of you done anything to help try to address mental wellness right now? The team members?
I would say the only thing that would come close to it is when we do, I guess, physical wellness. We do have something that we do gym memberships, or if they want to do yoga classes, things like that, we do, which does help mental health, but not so much for like a specific, we don't have anything that has a benefit where they can have a therapist. However, I think, again, going back to that little word of communication, certainly having flexibility to understand that is very, particularly anxiety seems to be a huge thing that I deal with staff members. And it's just, you got to be really sensitive to that and allow people the room to be able to develop as they see fit. Coming back from COVID, that was huge, like the anxiety as to when they felt comfortable. And it's just a sensitivity to, again, seeing them as the human beings and souls, and not just, oh, you're an employee, and giving them flexibility.
I think actually offering the gym memberships and the access to yoga does help with that. Does help with anxiety. So
that's with mine.
So we do practice a lot of mental health and personal development side to our company. We operate by our PIMS-F, so we believe in physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual health. So we kind of treat that as like a car. If one of those tires are flat, they're all flat. So we really do a lot of personal development. We actually have a personal development coach, and we do a team retreat at least once a year. And it truly just, it's about that mental side of it, not so much of the doing side, but the being side, calming that anxiety, getting the condition of the world out of our head, really blocking those naysayers and the negativity. So we really do practice a lot with that. We all try to strive to go to the gym, and I don't have like a gym membership benefit, but that is something that we are working on. But just like Debbi said, being supportive of those that do have that little bit higher anxiety. I do have a couple of those, and just being open to talk to them, give them support where you can, really goes a super long way. But we do a lot of personal development with our team, and it has greatly improved the morale and the energy and the attitude of our staff.
that's great.
Awesome. Great stuff. Great stuff. Well, this has been great. I've enjoyed, the conversation for sure. Stacy, any other questions for our
No,
group?
I think this has been a really powerful conversation. I want to thank you, Michael, for bringing it to us. And I want to thank you, Rachel and Debbi, for sharing what you do in your own businesses.
Thank
you
you
for having us.
Our pleasure. Thanks for having us.
Yeah. Take care, guys.
Bye.
Bye-bye.